comprehensive planning for student success. How will my students participate in the IEP meeting? Module 3, Lesson 3. Student-led IEPs begin in elementary school. At this time, the students can certainly start to know that there is a meeting about them. They can introduce the people in the meeting, tell them what is easy for them while they're in school and what is hard. They can then lead that into what the teacher can do to help them. It's important for students to start realizing that they have these strengths and challenges, and they also have these preferences and interests. And they can be focusing that on what they're going to do when they grow up.
I think it's been a great process. I'll have to say, when I first received the invitation, I went to my husband. I was just very apprehensive. I think at one point it's hard. You want to be so protective of all your kids, but at some point she's going to have to be a self-advocate.
We were a little concerned about our first graders, especially with them talking about their disabilities and maybe it hurting their self-esteem. I think their self-esteem was actually boosted rather than torn down.
Things I need to work on: language, asking for help when I need it.
Shelby is a 5th grade student who loves learning more about herself, setting goals, and discovering ways to ask for help when she's struggling.
Make sure I take my time and not rush me. It helps me because I can focus and see what I'm learning, what I need to focus on in my test and in my reading and everything. I'm becoming a better reader now.
By the time the student reaches middle school, we can add some levels to that student-led IEP agenda. The student can start to talk about what they want to learn. At the middle school, we need to start thinking about high school. So they need to start going ahead and thinking about that focus of learning. Within the IEP, they can talk about their present level in terms of what's easy and hard academically, what their current accommodations are and how they work for them, what classes they do like. And then you might start suggesting a goal, and the student will continue to talk about what they want to be when they grow up.
In the past, only parents, teachers, and administrators played a key role in the meetings, and if students attended, they were only silent observers. In this IEP meeting, all eyes are on Madison, and she wouldn't have it any other way. Madison loves being the center of attention for those she loves dearly.
You may not know that I like my family so much.
She does like her family so much.
Madison is now learning more about herself, her strengths, and her weaknesses.
I have learned to count money. I am good at families. I can add and subtract.
She loves the spotlight. She loves to be the center of attention, so it's great not only to have that aspect, but also to be talking about her educational goals.
Hey, everybody, guess what? My birthday's coming up, and I'm turning 12 for my birthday.
After seeing her in the IEP meeting leading it, she really was in her element, and I think she has kind of taken ownership of her goals and knows that what we talk about is being carried out in the classroom.
The results of incorporating self-determination and self-advocacy skills have not only broadened students' understanding of the way they learn and the accommodations they receive, but has also been an eye-opener for parents, teachers, and administrators who were somewhat hesitant of the new plan.
Finally, once the student reaches the high school, of course, you guessed it, the transition services plan is also included. So hopefully the student has had other opportunities to learn how to be a self-advocate, how to build self-determination skills, specifically with goal writing and goal attainment, like SDLMI. Students can progress monitor their transition services plan just as they would evaluate their progress with a goal under SDLMI. Student explains the disability, how the disability affects their performance, and the student explains and requests what he or she needs. The student discusses those accommodations, how they're effective, and is actively involved in the IEP discussion. This is going to be invaluable once they move on to post-secondary and they have to walk in and do all of that themselves independently.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Garrett Sales. I'm a sophomore at Conville High School. Let me tell you about myself. My interest: eating chocolate and peanut butter, playing capsule flag and unified basketball, learning more about being independent and prepare for college. My abilities: interacting with people, playing sports, making friends. Things that are harder for me: remember more than one or two directions, geometry, memory.
So you had a huge year with transition.
I'll say.
You are one of the few sophomores I know that has a job. And you pretty much got that all by yourself.
Our biggest thing is working towards that goal of independence. That's really huge for him.
So,
Next year too, I think we talked about doing internships.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Yep,
Right.
and getting you outside of the building, even maybe going down to the middle school or some of the other schools around
that's the
here.
goal. Yep, that's I really want to do. I really work well with young children. I am going to start looking at colleges.
Okay. So you've been doing very well in English class.
I feel like I get distracted very easily though with like other classmates of mine.
Mom and Dad are here, and
Nobody's
I'm
gonna
here,
leave you alone.
and Miss Mon is here, and these ladies are here. We're all here for you. And so when you have frustrations, or you're like, I just don't get it, we say, okay.
And Garrett, remember, when you're feeling overwhelmed, go to those first couple slides, which is who you are as a person. Goes so much farther than anything, and that is that you get along really well with people. You have people skills. You're caring. You're loving. You're outgoing. Those go a long way. And remember that when you're feeling overwhelmed. Okay, I'm really a great person, and I just want to push myself farther.
Yep.
So don't get too overwhelmed about stuff.
Okay.
So I thought this was a great meeting. Can I do the last slide?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks for all your help. And yeah.
I love it. That's awesome.
I feel like obviously it's all about me in the end. It's my IP meeting. I'm in charge of it.
You did a good job leading your own meeting for the first time. No, I think we covered everything. Thank you.
I think we did.
What's so cool about this is that by the time the students get in high school, they really can understand what they want for their future. They can set goals, make plans, and review and revise, just like you've learned about in the self-determined learning model of instruction. They can learn what it takes to reach their goals for the future and ask for help to carry out those future plans. This is not to say there aren't challenges. What are your concerns? Some possible concerns and challenges follow on in this slide. For students, they may lack motivation. Students don't often want to do things that are hard. Students are not often asked their opinion and have not made choices in a very long time. What are the priorities? Remind yourself about how critical this is for future success, and I think that you can make time for this a priority. You want to try to attach some lessons to the standards, especially in English or language arts. Remember that confident students often do better in testing and life situations. Some adaptations will have to be made. That's what makes being a special education teacher so special. Communication can be achieved in a variety of ways. A student delivering invitations with her IEP for the meeting by putting the invitation in her lap and having a paraprofessional wheel her to the classroom so that she can hand the invitation to other teachers in person. That's participating in the IEP process. The meeting will not be as scripted as in the past, but remember, students are the only one member of your team. You still have the opportunity to present your data and recommendations. And if no one else at your school wants to, be a trailblazer. It's definitely easier to implement with a team, but you be the one to have success and let the others follow you. After all, You are developing your students to become leaders. Are you an example? So, just some basic solutions is to start with a few students. Select those students that you think will be successful. You want others to see positive outcomes so that they will join in, and then as a team, you guys can really work together to bring up all students into this process. Choose the students who already exhibit some self-determination skills so you have some basic momentum there. And select a basic level of participants for most students in the first year. And be sure you ask for help. Remember, as in anything you try that's new, the learning curve is always widest at the beginning. As you and the students become familiar with how to do this, it takes much less time. Does your school have an advisement period that can be utilized to teach and discuss self-determination concepts to all students? Brainstorm with your colleagues to think outside the box and solicit the help of your building level administration to develop a plan. I'm sure you can find something that works for your school. And don't be afraid to include all students in your plan. The SDLMI is created and researched on students with and without disabilities. And students who have more significant disabilities, remember, just to teaching the student to be able to make choices or even to imitate and initiate, these are all the foundational skills for self-determination, and they can make progress. It will be important to keep your administrators in the loop. You want to share your successes and invite them to a meeting so that they can see themselves what a great job you're doing. When a parent asks how they can help you with their child's participation, mention how understanding and practicing these self-determination traits can benefit their child in school, at home, and when they graduate and move to college or work. They can talk to their children about setting goals or what goals they may be working toward. And they really might be surprised that the students actually do have these goals in mind. So remember that students can participate in their IEP meeting. Remember these ideas. They can prepare and deliver meeting invitations, whether it's stamping their initials on the bottom of the invitation, going to hand deliver them, sending emails, or sending text message reminders. Have them introduce the IEP meeting participants, whether it's pointing at a picture or it is learning to have the confidence to formally introduce people. Have them discuss their likes and dislikes and explain their strengths and weaknesses. Students can start learning more about their accommodations, owning their accommodations, and sharing what they like and don't like about them. Oftentimes, students don't want to use them, and so we need to hear their voice in these meetings. They can assist in developing goals for the upcoming year and present the actual portions of the IEP. Remember, this is an actual individualized education program, promoting active student participation to inspire real engagement. We want you to have the creativity and flexibility to work with the students at a level that inspires them to become active in their education. Do you have one student in mind right now who could benefit from this type of participation? Can you visualize one method that the student could utilize for participation?
All right, Sydney, we're going to start working on picking your pictures for your presentation today. Let's start with your first slide. I want Sydney to be as involved as possible in creating her PowerPoint for her presentation at her IEP. In the past, the students in our class have not been involved at all in the IEP process, so this was a way to bring Sydney in and to get her involved in the making of the presentation, and then also for her to be involved later in the actual presenting of her PowerPoint. Okay, now that we've talked a lot about Sydney's strengths, we're going to talk a little bit about the places that Sydney has challenges with. It's the best IEP meeting I have ever been a part of. This is my 8th year teaching. Just having a celebration of the student and having the student involved was the most wonderful. It's all about the student, and that's what it should be.
The next couple of slides show how some students in Georgia are participating in their meetings. An elementary student created a poster with pictures. The IEP meeting should not become a reading lesson. Encourage students to use pictures if they need that level of prompting. The student is beginning the process of identifying strengths, what I like in school, and challenges, what is hard at school, and a transition plan, things I like. This high school student and elementary school student both utilized PowerPoints for their presentation. The high school student is dressed up because the teacher incorporated preparing for the IEP meeting into work readiness skills, how to dress for an interview or an important meeting. Lauren is one of those students who could not talk in front of people, so she participated through voiceover. Lauren wanted to complete the FFA competition, but you have to be able to present, and no one could see how this would be possible for her. When her FAA teacher attended her IEP meeting, he realized that this is how she could complete. So you've been hearing the term Aspire in some of these videos. Aspire is a part of the Georgia DOE SPDIG grant for transition and graduation first grant. So Aspire's been going on for a number of years, and the wonderful thing that came out of this portion of the grant is the development of the Aspire lessons. So the developers at the state level considered student-led IEPs and what would have to be taught to the student in order to be ready to implement a student-led IEP, and developed 5 domains: awareness of strengths and challenges, IEP awareness, knowledge of IEP, communication skills for the IEP meeting, and IEP participation. Now I'm going to be sharing with you my live binder I've made available, and I want to show you how the resources you can find for Aspire, and even more than that. Okay, so the Aspire live binder is like this. So it has tabs, or it has just a table of contents, all active links. I'm just going to show you here in the table of contents how you can find information on the SDLMI teacher guide, a link to the SDI self-determination inventory online assessment. You've learned about that. And all of the lessons for the different domains. So for lessons on awareness of strengths and challenges, there are modified lessons, there are K2 lessons, 3-5, 6-8, and 9-12, so on and so forth. Lessons for each of the 5 domains. So the lessons are pretty well developed. You can just print them out and follow them or pull them up. It has all of the materials you need, the links, and any worksheets that may be necessary. They're also connected to the standards. So everything that you need is right here in the lesson plan. So you can see there are a lot of lesson plans here in the Aspire section. And then additionally, you have some other resources like some assessments that could help you, some videos if you're trying to encourage people in your school to participate. There's the I'm Determined curriculum, which we're about to look at again. You looked at it in the last module. There's the Choice Maker curriculum, which is free and available now, as you know. And webinars and other support materials to help you through this process. If you don't want to go to the live binder and you're very interested in the I'm Determined materials, which are great, you can go to the imdetermined.org. Make sure you just look at those quick links and you can get all of the templates and sample lesson plans that you could possibly need. Now, just to give you some basic tips as you move forward. Now that you know where to find your Aspire lesson plans and your I'm Determined documents, you have a great start. But then you approach the meeting. What do? Well, you need to create an agenda. Give your student an agenda whether it's a picture schedule or the same agenda everyone else uses. Make sure you're discussing with your student relaxation techniques. And just because they can tell you relaxation techniques doesn't mean that they can do them. So make sure that you practice and they demonstrate for you that they can do it. Some suggestions might just be like slow breaths in your nose and out your mouth, counting to 5, counting to 10, or just trying to cognitively think about a more relaxing situation. And you can also, and this is important, hold mock meetings. Practice these meetings before you have them. And that way they'll feel more comfortable and less likely to freeze up. Because like us, a student will feel more comfortable if they have an agenda to follow during a meeting. They can keep everyone on track. And that because it's nerve-wracking for everyone, practice can go a long way. Yoga breathing, taking deep breaths, etc. After the meeting, be sure to evaluate how the meeting went and get feedback from your student and for your student. Send thank you notes and celebrate, because this is a great opportunity for your student to feel success. The Self-Determination Inventory, the SDI, is a great way to monitor your students' growth on self-determination, and you can assess whether your practices are actually helping the student grow in self-determination. Although you don't have the ability to track within the system, you can download the student scores each time. You just print it to a PDF and make sure you save it with the date and the student's name, and then every year or every 6 months, you can have the student continue to take the SDI and compare the scores to see areas that are growing and continue to seek areas to develop. I thank you so much for your attention on this topic. I'm very passionate about it, and I hope that you will see success and feel passionate as well. Have a wonderful, wonderful year.